Hi, everyone. I'm Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey. Thank you so much for being here. I want to start by thanking my very good friend Tom Swazi from New York for being a supporter of our effort here today. I want to thank Kalshi CEO Tariq Mansour for stepping up to protect our children from the dangers of underage wagering, and he'll talk more about that in a minute. As a father, it matters, and I'm grateful that you're here. I'm also very grateful to the broad bipartisan support of this legislation we'll discuss today, including an original co-sponsors of this legislation, Congressman Van Drew, Panetta, Torres, Bresnahan, Lalota, Westerman, McDonald, Rivet, and Darren Soto. The digital world keeps getting more treacherous, and our children are caught up right in the middle of it. Today we're here to talk about another one of those dangers, one that has crept right onto their phones, sitting on the home screen next to the apps our children use to do their homework and text their friends. We're here to talk about gambling. Just a few weeks ago, I was sitting on the couch with my 14-year-old son watching the Knicks make their incredible championship run. And Swazi's also from New York, so he was rooting as well. And between plays and prop bet promos kept flashing across the screen. Not just during the game, but pre-game, post-game, even during the highlight reel. It almost seemed like you couldn't watch sports without placing a bet. My son looked over to me and said, "Dad, everyone's got an app. You can even play blackjack, poker, and bet on horses. And Dad, my friends have all signed up on their phones. These aren't video games, it's real money. And unlike a casino, it's now way too easy to access it." Even though it's the law, it's not just adults placing these bets anymore, or trades in the poly market space. Our kids are technologically light years ahead of the companies and policymakers who are supposed to be enforcing those limits. So let me tell you exactly what it looks like for our kids. And Swazi's kids are a little older, my kids are a little younger, so I'll tell you a little bit about what happens. These kids are smart, as you know, at a young age. They're technologically savvy, smart enough to grab a parent's password and just log in as them. It's too easy to place a bet or make a trade using their phone or theirs. It's not just these apps either, the betting apps either. A lot of video games today are designed to feel like gambling and hook kids early. Loot boxes, player packs, cosmetics. They train their brains on that same dopamine loop, priming them to bet with real money. We can't ask our children to self-police their way past a system built entirely on the honor code. Right now, a kid can log into a parent's, an older sibling's, or a friend's account and place a bet or make a trade with no verification at all. Nobody checks, that's it. That's the whole system. We wouldn't accept that at a casino in Vegas. We shouldn't accept it on the phone in our kids' back pocket. Saul Mellick of Texas placed his first bet at $10 as a teenager. It spiraled into $25,000 debt and suicide by 21. Kurt Friedenberg of California began gambling at 11, trading video game skins for betting currency, and by college was gambling 15 hours a day. A young man from Jersey started with a pick-em app in high school, got hooked online casino games, poured his entire paycheck from a part-time job into gambling, and eventually began stealing from his own parents. Adolescent brains are 2 to 4 times more likely than adults to develop a problem, a gambling problem. Gambling lights up the same dopamine reward pathways as drugs and alcohol, and having a sports book in your pocket available every second of every day only pours gasoline on that fire. This is a real crisis. Over a lifetime, about 1 in people with a gambling problem will attempt suicide, and it's bubbling up just under the surface. So what do we do about it? That's why today, in a bipartisan way, I'm introducing the Facial Recognition to Protect Children's Act, and here's what it does. It requires online sports books and prediction markets to use facial recognition technology to verify a user's age before they place a wager or make a trade. The technology reads facial structure and patterns to determine someone's age. It doesn't store the user's identity, and it doesn't store personal biometric information. This isn't about surveillance. It's about putting a bouncer at the door to protect our children. It's a simple fix. Right now, you show your face when you download an app, when you use your wallet on your phone, when you do online banking. Why shouldn't you have to do it when you place a bet or make a trade? And this isn't some untested futuristic idea. Kalshi and Crypto.com are already using this exact technology today to keep underage users off their platforms. If they can do it, every other sportsbook and prediction market in this country can do the same. This bill stops kids from underage gambling or trading on their own phone or their parents. Because it comes down to this. If a child isn't old enough to do something, the system should actually know that, not just take their word for it. So here's my ask to my colleagues across the aisle. Join us in this effort. This shouldn't be red versus blue. This should just be a common sense idea. to the industry, to casinos, prediction markets, crypto. Some of you are already doing the right thing. For the rest, step up now and show everybody that you should be protecting our children like those who've committed already doing. And I really want to thank Kalshi for stepping up and for doing the right thing and offering to protect our children. To those of you who aren't, you claim to care about this issue and protecting our children. You've told me that you are not interested in targeting teenagers. But all I get is radio silence when it's time to make a real commitment to do just that. So please step up. Stop the double talk. Every single sportsbook and prediction market in this country needs to commit to this idea. No excuses and no exceptions. If you don't, you owe every parent in America an explanation. Again, I want to thank Kalshi for being here today and stepping up to support this legislation. I hope they aren't alone. I'm also grateful to Parents Rise, an organization dedicated to children's online safety, for stepping up and speaking out in favor to protect our children. No politics here. Protect that 11-year-old hooked on gambling or trading even before he's lost all his baby teeth. It's about a young a man in $25,000 in debt from a habit he picked up as a teenager. It's about protecting our children in a bipartisan way. We can do this in the greatest country in the world. I'm going to call up now Tom Swazi from New York to speak for a minute, and then we want to hear from Tarek as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh. Good job. I want to thank you. The world is moving so quickly these days that it's hard for us to stop and figure out how are we going to protect ourselves against the ever-changing world that we face. When I was in 7th grade, Sister Ruth at St. Patrick's Grade School said, the world is moving so fast, we don't know how things are affecting us. She was talking about microwave ovens and going to space and things like that back in the 1970s. Now, think about how fast everything's moving. And the three biggest moving things happening in our world these days are crypto, AI, and predictive markets. And this legislation that Josh has proposed, along with colleagues on the other side of the aisle and myself, is essential. This is real life. Every single person who's watching us right now knows about people gambling on a regular basis. They know about people using these apps. Josh mentioned my boys. They're constantly talking about using these different apps and what different types of sports activities they can place a bet on. Kids these days, or kids throughout time, their brains do not develop fully until they're 18 years old. And during that time, they're very impressionable. And the endorphin rush that Josh referenced in his remarks are particularly more impactful at those young ages. This is a real life thing. Now, we saw what happened when we didn't put liability in place for social media platforms and what's happened with the different misinformation that's being propagated by people on social media on a regular basis. We have to be thinking ahead on the new, quickly moving technological platforms that exist, like predictive markets, as to how it's going to affect our lives, how it's going to especially affect our children's lives. So this is important legislation. It's well thought out legislation. It's common sense legislation, and it's something that we need to be promoting. And I want to join Josh in thanking Kalshi for doing this before there's even any legislation, by recognizing that we don't want kids who are at these impressionable ages when their brains are just forming and they're subject to these endorphin rushes to be addicted to gambling and then thereby ruin the rest of their lives. So this is really important real life stuff, and we're very grateful for everybody's help on this. Thanks so much, Josh.
Thanks, Tom. Awesome, buddy. Go ahead, man. Now I want to invite Tarek up to come address us all. Thanks, Tarek. Please.
Let's see. My notes here.
Oh, that's Nate. That's you.
All right, great. Well, thanks again for having me, and thank you, Congressman Gottheimer and Congressman Swazi for leading the charge on this and your leadership on this issue. So Kalshi was founded in 2018, and what we're building is the next generation of financial markets. Our Act 1 was building prediction markets, and we have become the leader in the space by really taking this regulatory first approach to this market and establishing the first federally regulated prediction market in the US. We have more recently expanded our offering to other products, trading products, some of which involve retail and institutionals alike, including the first regulated perpetual futures in America, a suite of indices like the Kalshi Political Index, KPOW, and most recently a series of derivatives on compute. From day one, we've taken a regulatory first approach to building this company and building this industry. As a financial market, we're handling people's money, and so we always felt and believed that the right way to do it is to bring in a proper regulatory umbrella to make sure people are protected and ensure our long-term success. And Kalshi's success and the way that we've essentially taken market share from unregulated platform is living validation of that approach. It is why we spent years getting regulated up front before launching a single product. It is why we're committed to working with members on both sides of the aisle on consumer protections. And is why I want Kalshi to set a new standard of fairness and customer protection, not just in prediction markets, but also in all financial markets and other types of companies like sportsbooks and casinos and others, and crypto. You also mentioned crypto here. Kalshi was founded on the idea that free markets work, and they're the best way to aggregate information and get a clear picture of what's happening in the world. Today, millions of people are using Kalshi, and they come to Kalshi whether to trade or just look at the forecast to get smarter about what's happening in the world around them. But while I believe that in free markets, I also believe that we have a responsibility and duty to establish the right set of guardrails to ensure people are not getting hurt. And that starts with protecting and keeping minors off these platforms. That's why I'm glad to see Congress thinking about this and taking action. While minors are already banned from participating on Kalshi and other regulated prediction markets, and we verify these customers to ensure those bans, we don't just view this as a checkbox exercise. Today, we're already self-regulating and going above and beyond what's required and implementing a suite of measures, including some of which are discussed in this bill. And to state a few, we implement comprehensive know your customer procedures to check that are bank rate level to check who the customers that are onboarding on the platforms are. We use Face ID to ensure that minors can't pick up their parents' phone and access the platform. We've implemented a suite of AI tools using a number of vendors that look at a variety of parameters like previous device use, other apps on their phone, deposit methods, and so on and so forth to flag accounts that may be at risk. And earlier this year, we launched a parent portal that essentially enables parents to submit their IDs without signing up to Kalshi. And they're using it to essentially tell us to not let other people, which usually ends up being their children, use their IDs to access the product. These types of measures can be done, they are being done, and they usually work. They really work. There's more work to be done in this space. We hope to see a lot of these measures and others in the industry join. Thank you again to Congressman Gottheimer and Swazi and Vandrew to basically looking at this piece of legislation and your leadership here. And I look forward to working with you in the space and hope others in the industry will join us to help make this happen. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks again.
And you guys have any questions for us? Yes, sir.
I was curious, Congressman Swazi talked about this is a new technology, we need to figure out how to treat it. How do you think Congress should treat these new prediction markets? Should they be treated the same as gambling, or do you see it as sort of a new technology? And also, if I can ask a second question, I wanted to ask you about the State Department bill amendment later today on Israel funding and where you stand on that.
Yeah, sure. Well, and Tara can talk a little bit more about the approach of the regulatory approach right now under the way it's structured, and I support the way it's structured. Listen, I also think states like New Jersey and others, if they want to tax the product, they can, just like is in place right now, and they're able to do that if they want to. But I think the current regulatory structure is set up. They're following the rules of the road. These are trades, and Tara can talk a little bit more about the model and how it works. But I'll say this, back to what Mr. Swazi said, which I think is very important. We are living in a different time with technology, and it's so easy to access so many different things. The question is, can we keep up with it to make sure we protect our children? And the fact is that everybody in this space, whether you're in the predictive market space, whether you're in the online gaming space, whether it's a trade, just like if you were to go on to your broker and trade, and all these things should be verified, and we should make sure there should be some sort of step in the process to prevent young children. And I've got a 14-year-old, but you talk to people. I was out with a bunch of my son's friends recently, and I was like, how many of them? They all know about these sites, and they all are playing around on these sites. They should not be able to place a wager or make a trade unless they're of age. And I think we have the technology to be able to do something about it. The fact is, Tarek and Kalshi are stepping up and doing something about it. They're making it very clear that that's not their customer and they're not interested in targeting them. There's no reason why every single predictive market and every single online gaming, casino, wherever, shouldn't make the same commitment. And by the way, if they refuse, the only excuse that I can come up with for them is that they want to target children. Otherwise, why in the hell aren't they also willing to make this commitment? I've asked them to make this commitment. We've called them to make this commitment. They have more excuses and more double talk than you can believe. And I don't understand it. If they don't want to prey on children, why aren't they agreeing to this? And I expect them all today to call me and say, okay, we're on board. If not, There's no other excuse. Listen, they want to attack everybody else, right? They're the first ones that want to attack the predictive markets and everyone else and say, oh yeah, because believe me, I called them and they said, well, those people want to target children. And I'm like, whoa, they're stepping up and being willing to agree to make sure there should be facial recognition to prevent that. And so will you sign on? And then they come up with every excuse. Well, it's too sunny out. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. The moon's not coming out the right day, so I can't sign out. Right? So that's the reason they've come up with why in the hell they won't sign on. I'm calling on all them to sign on and do the right thing. In terms of where I stand on today's legislation, I think it's outrageous, and in my opinion, that anyone would support that legislation today, led by Tom Massey, who is not only has made a series of anti-Semitic, anti-gay comments and all he does. If you look at that guy's history, there's a reason why most of his colleagues in the Republican Party don't support him. And if we look to him to lead our national security, we've got a real problem. Any other questions? Tarek, I don't know if you want to add anything. Do you need to hear from him on anything, or are you good? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, my answer is an unequivocal yes. So you cannot actually bet on military actions, war, terrorism, assassination on Kalshi. One, because it's against the law. Two, it's because that is a peace action. Opening the Strait of Hormuz is very economic in nature. That's not the same as launching a missile on Gaza and an actual war or missile market. You can make the same argument about trading any oil future is related to the war, right? When the war comes back, price goes up. When the war goes out, price goes down. That is not an argument to ban trading on oil. You can make that argument really about any financial markets to essentially ban all markets. We take a very, very clear line and deliberate line. You cannot directly trade on anything that essentially can create perverse incentives and things that could cause people harm. That is against the law. That is also what we believe is immoral. In terms of the guardrails, we've taken a very strong stance against insider trading. We have policed it. We've done an incredible job at essentially catching all the bad actors and rooting them out of the system. One, because it's very important that people trust the system, and two, it's in our interest. If people don't trust the system, they stop using it. Anything that Congress is looking to do on that space in terms of promoting market integrity and promoting and enhancing the measures that we can take against insider trading and market manipulation, we've been coming out in support of, and it's something, it's work that we'd like to do and we're excited to do over the next few years.
And I'll just add to that and say I want to strongly agree with the fact that we need strong rules on insider trading. And I think we need strong rules on ensuring that you can't bet on things like war itself or other things that obviously I know that Kalshi has strong policies in place about. And by the way, there's predictive markets out there that don't have those rules in place, that aren't under any kind of U.S. regulatory structure. And I've got a real problem with that. And they should fall under U.S. regulatory structure, and they should implement the same rules of the road, in my opinion. And, that's the least we should be able to do. It's hot out here. I'm going. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.